Hi, I'm Patrick Risley. I'm pastor and teaching elder here at First Presbyterian Church, Fort Lauderdale, and welcome to today's Daily Devo, or This One Thing, as we take a scripture from the Daily Common Lectionary and we blow it up a little bit and look at it. Well, today comes from the Gospel of Matthew, Matthew chapter 14, verses 13 to 21. Let me just share the story. Jesus has been in his hometown of Nazareth. He went back home to see the people he grew up with, and he was trying to share the good news of the reign of God, the kingdom of heaven among them. And everybody couldn't embrace it. And they said, this is Jesus. This is Joseph's kid. This is Mary's boy. I mean, we've seen him. He grew up with our kids. We know his brothers and sisters. It's Jesus. We know him. And so he wasn't respected, honored, or listened to in his hometown of Nazareth. Imagine how he must have felt. Well, he leaves there, and in Matthew's story time, as Jesus leaves Nazareth, we have an intrusion into the story about Jesus' cousin, John the Baptist. And John is in prison, and on a whim at a party, a presidential party, Herod murders John, cuts off his head. So Jesus is leaving Nazareth. He's pondering the issues of the loss of his cousin. And then it says, after these things, Jesus went to a deserted place. The one thing I want us to get today, my friends, is the importance of self-care in a deserted place and the realities of that. Jesus gets into a boat on the side of the Sea of Galilee, and he takes the boat across the lake, and he needed to be with his closest friends. He needed time to process all this news, and as he's heading across, he's leaving the side of the shore, and all the people on the shore began tracking where he was. And as he went across the lake, they began to go around the lake to intersect Jesus on the other side. Sure enough, 5,000 people were waiting for Jesus when he landed on the opposite side. This time of being in a deserted place, to grieve, to care for one's soul, was cut short. What can we learn about self-care from Jesus? Well, one is that we need to go to those deserted places when life gets hard. It may not be getting in a boat and going to another side of the lake. It may not be going to the mountains. It may not be going to the beach or to a private place. It may be just turning one's heart into the soul. And the deeper we go into the soul, into the deserted place in our heart where we feel that pain and discomfort, that's what Jesus did. Secondly, we realize that Jesus didn't have a whole lot of time to stay in that deserted place. He wanted to. It looks like he was crossing the lake and go to the other side in the wilderness and spend time there processing. But he only had the boat time. He didn't know he was only going to have the boat time, but that's all he had. And sure enough, what we learn is that intentionality in our desert places is more important than the time we spend in the desert places of growth, of healing, of reflection. You see, the crowd interrupted Jesus, so he had to make good with the time that he had. MarketWatch made a study and said that adults spend 11 hours in front of screens every day. When you and I go to our deserted places, what do we like to do? Well, first thing we do is we sit down, we try to chill, get our mind off of things. We'll pull out the phone, we'll pull out the iPad, we'll go to Instagram, Facebook, read the news, read the sports. Of course, there's no sports to read anymore. But we'll spend a lot of time wasting time. And what Jesus is telling us, intentionality is more important than time as we go to the deserted places? How intentional are we when we go in within ourselves into the deep places of the heart? The third thing we note about going into our desert places and our self-care is that as we emerge from them, it is okay to elicit or solicit help from other people. Later in the day, when the crowds were hungry, his disciples were saying, Jesus, we got to send them away. There's not enough food. And Jesus says, no, you give them something to eat. The desert place enabled Jesus, going there enabled Jesus to learn to rely on those around him to help. May we learn that too. This one thing, take time to go to a quiet desert place. Secondly, remember the time spent there is more about intentionality than time spent. And then third, as we emerge from that desert, let us solicit the help of those about us that we love and trust. Beloved, I love you. I will see you, church, on Sunday.